What's going on, everybody? In this video, we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about Bitcoin, a beautiful pattern that might be playing out here. We're also going to talk about what's beside me, a major Swiss bank launching Bitcoin and Ether trading. And we're also going to talk about a recent update from Riot regarding Bitfarms. Yes, they are still trying to acquire them. Major Swiss bank ZKB launches Bitcoin and Ether trading. ZKB stands for Zurich Cantonal Bank. Hopefully I said that right, probably not. But they're going to take on the function of securing the private keys. Remember, not your keys, not your crypto, but this is still a positive step. Imagine you, for example, being able to open up your Wells Fargo app or your Bank of America app or whatever app it is, and along with seeing your checking account, your savings account, you have your little crypto balance on there. I do think this is the next step, and if these banks want to be relevant, if these banks want to innovate, they are going to include crypto. ZCB, let's just call it that from now on, one of the largest banks in Switzerland, is the latest banking institution to enable cryptocurrency trading for its customers. And according to an official announcement on September 4, ZCB is now offering trading and custody service for Bitcoin and Ether. And as said by the bank, the offer is seamlessly integrated into the existing channels and is aimed equally at customers and third-party banks. Zurich Cantonal Bank is the largest cantonal bank and the fourth largest bank in Switzerland, with total assets under management of 200 billion Swiss francs, or $235 billion USD. And as I said in the beginning, they are taking responsibility for storage, they are holding on to the keys, and doing the custodial service. And the cryptocurrency holdings will be integrated into the existing portfolio view. I think that's pretty cool. Our newly launched offering in the area of cryptocurrencies offers a high level of security and allows the integration of other currencies and applications. When it comes to crypto, ZKB takes on the critical function of securely storing the private keys. We can argue how critical that is. Customers and third-party banks therefore do not need their own wallet, therefore do not have to worry about storing their own private keys. How convenient. ZKB takes care of both. Now, some of us might want our own access to our own keys, our own way to store our own Bitcoin, not to rely on a bank. But I can see how this is a positive for the masses. For people that are just getting into crypto, that don't want to worry about remembering a seed phrase, how to store their Bitcoin, things like that, you just set it and forget it, leave it to the bank. I can understand why some people would want that. Just remember that we have seen exchanges, so on and so forth, fail. These companies that would custody your Bitcoin for you, that doesn't mean that everybody's going to go bankrupt that custodies Bitcoin for you, but it's something to be aware of. There is risks. It's not the same as getting a cold wallet, having your own seed phrase, hiding it in a vault, and keeping it from any prying hands. Now, apparently ZKB has been exploring the digital asset space for the past few years. And according to a local crypto entrepreneur and investor, Jacob Bosshard, that's a badass name, ZKB was expected to launch its crypto services at least 2 months ago. Previously, others such as Swiss Cantonal Bank, Zürcher Cantonal Bank, and St. Galler Cantonal Bank AG, and Luzerner Cantonal Bank also successfully introduced cryptocurrency services, Bosshard mentioned in a LinkedIn post. Pretty cool stuff. The people of Switzerland have another way to access some Bitcoin. I do think we'll see more and more banks kind of welcoming crypto onto their platforms. So we do have something interesting going on with Bitcoin, and then we're going to talk about Riot and Bitfarms, what's going on with this hostile takeover, what's happening there. But you can see this happy little inverse head and shoulders. You know it's happy because it has an upside down smiley face. But you'll see that we hit the head here, we hit the shoulder here. We did get that little dump here down to the 55 area. Do we come down and revisit it? Perhaps. Let me show you a previous head and shoulders that we had. An inverse head and shoulders, I should say. Here's the head, here's the shoulder, here's another shoulder. We did get a nice drop. You see a recovery, and then you see that drop again. So we might get something similar, you know, we might get this run back up that we saw, and then a little recovery farther up, and then another final drop, or a drop right here even. I don't think we're out of the woods. I think we could retest this roughly 55,000 area. It'll be important to hold it if we do retest it. But you know, previously we have gotten these retests on these inverse head and shoulders. It isn't just a little wick down and then we rally. Perhaps it takes a little bit more. Maybe we'll do something very similar where we have a little up day here and then we start selling off. If we can't hold this 57, we're going back to 55. And then this inverse head and shoulders is even more clear. Rather than just being a wick, we might get a body. I do personally think that the market will react to this inverse head and shoulders. Haven't seen any news articles talking about it yet. Maybe we get that in a couple days. We did see, though, a beautiful inverse head and shoulders here. And once we got through that shoulder, we did see a nice roughly 14-15% run back near all-time highs from about 62,000 to about 72,000. We could definitely see something similar here and even say a 15% push would bring us to potentially break out of this resistance or right up to it. So that'll be what's important. If this inverse head and shoulders does play out, if we get a nice little reaction from it, what'll be crucial is, can we break this previous resistance? This resistance that's been hanging over our heads for quite a while since we hit new all-time highs. From 74,000, this has been a relatively consistent resistance. I might not have it in the best area, but this general zone, this is our resistance zone. And if we get a positive reaction out of this inverse head and shoulders, maybe we come up to test this resistance. And then after that, it's a matter of either breaking over it, finding it as resistance, falling back down. I do suspect this downwards consolidation will end soon. Every Q4 of a halving year has seen a nice run. I don't expect any different here. I might expect something different if we were absolutely rallying up to this point, but we have not been. We've had a beautiful consolidation. We just got through a bunch of Mt. Gox fear. We got through a bunch of Germany fear. We got through some USA fear. We got through Celsius payments. And we're about to get FTX creditors getting paid in cash that might flood into crypto, multiple billions worth. And as for Mt. Gox, we have like 2 billion of the 9 billion left. I do think the fear regarding all of that is pretty much behind us. I do think when we look back, we will see this 40-something thousand, and this will be the bottom of this pullback. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe we see one final crash, but I believe these are the times you want to buy. These are the times you want to take advantage of Bitcoin, crypto, Bitcoin miners, MicroStrategies, Coinbases, any of these Bitcoin proxies you're bullish on for the rest of the cycle. If you believe the Bitcoin top is not in, this is the time to buy. Now, I'll leave this down below for you guys. I'm not going to go over every little nook and cranny. We have an update regarding Bitfarms and Riot. Riot issues an open letter to fellow Bitfarms shareholders ahead of an upcoming special meeting. This meeting is going to be October 29th. And one thing is, Riot proposed a reduced slate of new directors. Now, they had 3 directors in mind. Now they have 2 in mind. But the main reason for this, I believe, is some of the Bitfarms execs leaving. So now Riot doesn't see the need to have 3. Now they only see the need to have 2. I'm skipping a little bit here. I definitely recommend you guys read this down below. But here's Riot's words. Since we initiated our campaign, 2 of Bitfarms' 3 co-founders, Emiliano G and Nicholas B, have resigned from the Bitfarms board. Notably, Mr. G only resigned after shareholders voted not to re-elect him by a significant margin. Okay? Bitfarms subsequently appointed Fanny Phillip to replace Mr. G, appointed Ben Gagnon as CEO, and a member of the Bitfarms board to replace Mr. Bonta, and made other executive leadership changes. While these changes represent a step in the right direction, they have been reactive and insufficient to address Bitfarms' broken governance. These actions followed Riot's sustained public pressure and would not have occurred had Riot not challenged the entrenchment of the Bitfarms board. The evidence is clear. Bitfarms needs additional truly independent directors with the experience and expertise to ensure that decisions about the company's strategy moving forward reflect what is best for all shareholders, not just what is best for legacy directors whose focus is maintaining their own positions. Now, here's my take on this. For one, I think Riot needs to mind their own business and focus on their own board. For 2, I mean, I get it. Riot is trying to paint Bitfarms in a bad light so that they can take them over. That's just my initial reaction. It's just kind of funny that Riot acts like they're like a parent or something, and they are concerned with Bitfarms and their shareholders. But let's continue on. Bitfarms failed poison pill, the unilateral adoption of a shareholder's right plan or a poison pill with a 15% threshold, ran counter to established legal and governance standards. The entrenching poison pill was rightfully invalidated and ceased trading by the Ontario Capital Markets Tribunal in response to Riot's application. Had Riot not acted, the poison pill would have prejudiced all Bitfarms shareholders. Had Riot not acted, they wouldn't have had a poison pill. This is the reason that Bitfarms had the poison pill, is because of Riot trying to take over. Come on. On June 27, 2024, Bitfarms announced the addition of Fanny Phillip to the Bitfarms board. Bitfarms chose to make this appointment without consulting Riot, its largest shareholder, even though the Bitfarms board knew that we had proposed a slate of highly qualified director nominees and specifically asked that we be consulted before any board changes were made. Also, they talk about the recent Stronghold acquisition, basically saying that the only reason for this was to keep Riot from getting the 20% ownership, and I agree. I don't necessarily blame Bitfarms for that, but Riot's basically arguing that Bitfarms way overpaid for this. This isn't in the interest of the shareholders. This 175 million transaction that includes $50 million of assumed debt represents a greater than 100% premium to Stronghold's closing share price on the day prior to the announcement, which greatly exceeds the premiums of precedent all-stock transactions in which sellers participate in any potential upside. Moreover, while announced as a highly accretive transaction with compelling economics, shareholders have not yet been provided an estimate of capital expenditures that will be provided to fund the development of Stronghold sites. These points are especially troubling given that Stronghold was effectively for sale for a significant period of time, with its strategic review process publicly announced earlier this year. Clearly no participant in the sector was willing to pay such an inflated price. As Bitfarms' largest shareholder, we are concerned that the Bitfarms board did not enter this transaction with the best interests of shareholders in mind. Based on the transaction terms, Stronghold acquisition appears to be yet another action designed to entrench the Bitfarms board. And also, finally, continued lack of engagement with Riot. We have still seen no change in posture from the Bitfarms board regarding its willingness to work constructively with Riot. I'm running out of breath. To consider beneficial changes to the Bitfarms board and or a mutually beneficial combination that would maximize value for our Bitfarms shareholders. Riot is acting like they have Bitfarms shareholders at heart. They need to stop being fake, in my opinion, and just say what it is, just say we want to acquire you. That's all. We don't care about the shareholders. It's a bunch of like smoke and mirrors, in my opinion. Be that as it may, Riot is trying to acquire Bitfarms, regardless of like their intention, regardless of what the perceived intention is. It's not to help shareholders, it's obviously to acquire the company. They're trying to point these things out as a reason that Riot should take over. Riot doesn't necessarily believe these things, but Riot saying these things is implying that we need someone else to take over for Bitfarms. They need better management. I'll keep my opinions aside. I'm just giving you guys the news. Now here's the path forward that Riot sees. Previously, we announced we would nominate 3 independent and highly qualified nominees. With the resignation of the people that have recently resigned, basically, our campaign to fix Bitfarms' broken governance has already resulted in progress towards addressing the founder-led culture that we believe has been harmful to the Bitfarms board. As a result, we'll be reducing our proposed slate of new directors to 2, fully independent of Riot and Bitfarms, and will bring much needed public company board experience, corporate governance oversight, transaction experience, and business expertise to the Bitfarms board. We will be running the nominees to replace 2 Bitfarms directors, co-founders, in particular Mr. Finkelstein, as one of the 3 co-founders, bears responsibility for, among other things, Bitfarms' botched CEO succession process. That has led it to having 5 CEOs in 5 years. That's interesting. Now, what does this mean? This means clearly that Riot is still trying to take over Bitfarms regardless of the Stronghold acquisition, regardless of that acquisition causing Riot to get less ownership of Bitfarms. I think that Riot is going to continue to pursue Bitfarms. I'm not necessarily for this. I would prefer that these companies stay separate for reasons that you guys might not even know. If you've been here for a while, you'll know why I don't want this acquisition. But anyways, let's look over Riot and Bitfarms on the chart. I will admit Bitfarms' chart does look a lot more promising. Now looking at Riot in my eyes is in a buy zone. We are down very near this $6 area that was a previous point where we found a lot of support. And I do think this pattern is going to play out. I do think we're going to see this kind of a tightening pattern. We get the range to the upside, we get the range to the downside, to the upside, to the downside. You get these ranges. Right now we're in the downside range. Right now Bitcoin is beaten down, Riot's beaten down, all the Bitcoin miners are beaten down. The Bitcoin miners you like, this is the time to take advantage. This is the time to buy, in my opinion, to enjoy the last final runs. Now depending on where we bounce, this is likely in the wrong spot. Maybe this is where we bounce and this will kind of be where this pattern is from now on. But I think we'll fall a little bit more. Maybe we'll test this previous kind of a support area. It was a previous resistance too. I forgot to mention to you guys that. It was a previous resistance right here. This roughly $6 area. So if Riot falls a little more, it'd be a fantastic buy here. I think it's a fantastic buy where it's at. Don't be too picky. You never know when things will suddenly pop out of nowhere. And we won't be looking back at these prices, believe it or not. Look at what Q4 does every halving cycle. I expect no different. We're not leading into Q4 with a ton of strength, with a ton of FOMO. It's been very fearful. If anything, Bitcoin is very ready to rubber band right back to those all-time highs. And things will change very, very quickly. Things, as we have seen in the past, can go from very bearish to very bullish. Remember, after the spot Bitcoin ETFs, we were at 49,000. We sold off to 38,000. People were so fearful. And then we rallied to new all-time highs from $38,000. We can see more of the same. The cycle's not over. If you think the cycle's over, you shouldn't be buying Bitcoin miners. If you think the cycle is going to continue, this is the time to buy. Even Bitfarms, while I'm not buying it, I do see it as a buy. In this lower range, you want to be adding to it if you're bullish on Bitfarms. It is at a support area, and I do believe at the bottom of this pattern, this is a buy zone. As you buy in, as it runs up, you can buy in on the lower level, sell at the higher level, kind of swing it, or just try to scale in while it's low. Build out your position while it's low, and be ready to sell at the end of the cycle. Our goal isn't necessarily to buy the exact bottom and sell the exact top. The goal is to buy in a bottom zone and sell in a top zone. Don't rack your brain about, is this the top and maybe I'll wait a little longer? Is this the top? Maybe I'll wait a little longer. When things are looking euphoric, when things are very bullish, when suddenly retail is actually excited and happy and not sad anymore, that is the time you want to start taking profits. This is the time you want to buy. While everyone's super negative, that's when you follow the other direction. That's when you go the other direction. Everyone else is so fearful right now. Wait till they're all euphoric. That's when you want to be fearful. Retail sentiment is basically the opposite of what you want to do. Right now, retail sentiment is terrible. But long story short, Riot, Bitfarms, if you like them, I think they're buys. We'll see what happens with Riot and Bitfarms. Maybe they end up being one company one day. Maybe Bitfarms is able to, thwart a hostile takeover. If Riot gets some of the board members that they want and kicks out some of the Bitfarms ones that they don't want, I do think it's very, very likely that Riot will end up taking over Bitfarms, depending on the shareholder meeting. Now, I know this video isn't focused on Iren at all, or CleanSpark for that matter, but I do think both are in great times to buy. You want to buy the fear. With Iren, you want to buy while it's in this lower range, either sell when it's in the top range, or just, simply take profits, trim, sell covered calls, or just avoid buying. There's a misconception that the Bitcoin miners are doing terrible versus Bitcoin. And keep in mind that many have dropped very, very hard recently. Believe it or not, many have still outperformed Bitcoin, even with this hard drop. Even with Iren dropping over almost 60%, even with this huge drop, Iren has still outperformed Bitcoin. Yes. From bottom just to where it's at, roughly a 6x. Bitcoin is about a 4x where it's at. 15,000 to about 60,000 is a 4x. So there are Bitcoin miners that have outperformed Bitcoin. And many of these Bitcoin miners, when things get hot and heavy and when things start rallying, these miners will even more so outperform Bitcoin. There will be times where Bitcoin potentially looks like the better performer, but this is probably going to be after big corrections. When Bitcoin, say, drops 20-30% and a Bitcoin miner drops, say, 50-60%. Sorry guys, my camera just died on me. But anyways, moral of the story is you want to buy the Bitcoin miners that you're most bullish on while they're beaten down. Things can change drastically in a matter of a few months. When we look back, when we're in 2025, when this cycle is all done and we're looking back at it, I am very confident that when we look back into this month of August and the month of September, these will be fantastic times to load up on our favorite Bitcoin miners, on our favorite cryptos, MicroStrategies, Coinbases, so on and so forth. These are the times you want to load up while there's fear in the market, while the whales are buying at levels we haven't seen in over 18 months, while Bitcoin supply on exchanges is at lows we haven't seen since November of 2018. These are the times you want to load up, when there's fear in the market. And then when everyone's saying Bitcoin's going to 500,000, a million, etc., that's when you want to start taking profits. That's when you want to start heading for the hills. Or if you're looking decades out, just continue to buy and hold and buy and hold. You can't fail. Thanks as always for watching, guys. I'll see you on the next one. What do you think about Bitfarms and Riot? Are they going to get acquired? Or is Bitfarms going to successfully push Riot away? And also, what Bitcoin miners are you buying recently? I know it's kind of a mixed day today. We do have a little bit of green out there, but these are the times you want to take advantage after these huge corrections. Or maybe your strategy is just buying while they're running up and setting a stop loss. Either way, stick to what works for you. Do your own research. I love you, and I'll see you next time.